my king.
Stop it.
I have some new tech to show you. It is lighter, it absorbs energy.
Welcome to another Slice of Sci-Fi. I'm Noah Richmond.
And I'm Daren Gulsvik.
We are talking about
Black Panther.
Yeah,
We'll wait for this one.
yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of people have really been waiting for this one for a while. And I would say that this is definitely a movie that delivers. It's, so it's giving us the story of Black Panther. Obviously somebody that there's been a lot of interest in because he's sort of the first African superhero to appear in the Marvel universe. And this film is really the first major superhero film. I can think of maybe some smaller, easy to forget items, but first major superhero film to come with.
Well, you had the Wesley Snipes,
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, and then but if you're right, it's the AAA in Black Panther is a AAA.
Right.
Character for sure. So.
Right. But the thing is, so all of that, there's a lot of hype coming out from that. But the thing that I really wasn't, because I stayed away from trailers, I wanted to go in as fresh with this as I could. So one thing I wasn't entirely prepared for, and that was just a wonderful surprise, was how vivid it was in evoking a kind of very vibrant vision of African world, African landscape, and a mythology that goes hand in hand with it. The story of this kingdom and this traditions they have with becoming the king and leading this land and having this hidden underground world where they're actually very technologically advanced, but keeping themselves hidden from the rest of the world so that everybody thinks their kingdom is really this
third world kind of underdeveloped, right?
Right. So it really creates a spell. It's really something it's very entrancing, and it really takes you into its myth, into its legend, into its story, and it really absorbs you in the world that it weaves for you. It's very colorful. I keep coming back to the word mythic, but it really does have that, just evoking that kind of legendary feel. So on the whole, it really does succeed in being something different, not just merely another superhero action film where they put a black person in the lead, but they actually really brought you the first genuine African superhero experience to a major audience.
Yeah, and it felt like it was a celebration of culture and something that most Americans or people in the world don't get a chance to see, because most times we see images of African being very poor and just things that are attractive and really, I guess, highlighting and celebrating their culture.
Yeah.
And obviously this is a work of fiction, of course,
Right.
Wakanda is, but still, it was tying into those truths and realities. And so it was nice, and the way the colors just, jumped off the screen. Cogler did an amazing job at really creating that thing when the music was really on point. I don't know, it just made me happy watching their whole, trial, and as they were going through trying to define who was the next king, and just an amazing experience. And so I'm glad that, and hopefully this will be the sign of things to come,
Right.
And I think it's just, obviously this goes on beyond it being just a Marvel movie for some cultures, it becomes kind of a footprint and about being accepted and being able to actually be a AAA title that really shines as the best with all the other Marvel titles. And I'm excited now to finally get to see Black Panther and to see how it done right. I thought, Boseman does an amazing job. I think, when the Russo brothers hired him, they hit it out of the park with him. So just wonderful. The acting was,
Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely a film that gets it right. It's really, it's really a treat to have, to get a surprise like this.
Yeah.
Where
in February,
where it's really something that you just haven't haven't seen before, and it's really done so well. Now, it's not a perfect film.
No.
I myself just felt like there was this entire sequence that took place in Korea, and I just wasn't engaged with that particular sequence. I could just as well have done without anything that happened there. We're introduced to a CIA agent. Well, I guess he's not introduced. Martin Freeman's character
Was in the previous
was in Captain America: Civil War, but he's very perfunctory. He's sort of thrown in front of the camera. Hey, this guy works for the American CIA. Suddenly, we're supposed to like him or something, and
Well, he came across really just kind of, well, first of all, his character is not likable, and the design of that character is supposed to be likable, I would believe.
Right.
And for a person to show and to be a kind of a well-revered person as his character is supposed to be, he didn't come across that way, And I know Freeman's a good actor,
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I felt like that character got a fair amount of screen time, and yet I never saw him develop into anything I really cared about or found interesting. So I thought that was a weakness. Also, the action sequence that takes place in Korea really looked like it was digitally. It just looked like a not very well rendered computer file.
Well, for that fact, most of the effects of the fighting sequences, they weren't the best that I'd seen. But I mean, still, they were very convincing because the acting was so good, and the story that was driving these sequences made it interesting. And I think I'm okay with that. I mean, I would rather have a really good story and great acting, and then having just like Transformers, for example. It's pretty awesome, but the stories are awful. But and so I'm with you on the and I think they treated that scene to set things up, and I just don't know that it needed to take place in Korea. It just didn't feel like it was purposeful at all.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I thought the Korea scene, the whole sequence to me just seemed a little forced in, and then Martin Freeman's character the whole way through, I just kept finding myself wanting to warm up to him, and I never did.
Yeah.
So I did have those issues with the film. I also thought that there were just points in the film where it maybe could have been trimmed a little bit. They were just sort of here and there. I felt myself like getting a little drowsy, thinking it was dragging a little. But those are honestly nitpicks when taken within the whole of the entire thing. I mean, the entire experience really is something unique, something special, and just a good time at the movies. Good, fun superhero film.
Well, and all right, so like I've always felt that Marvel has had a villain problem. I think this movie it did it really good. There was a backstory to the villain, and you actually had sympathy for him. And I think that's the most important part of being a villain, is having a little bit of, or even empathy for that matter.
Yeah.
Because every villain at one point had to be good. I mean, maybe that's another conversation, but I just think the problem with Marvel movies in general has always been a really convincing villain. I think in Black Panther, the villain was great, and I think that really helped at the end.
That's an important point. That is something that I also really admired about the film, is that they had a villain who ultimately they were presenting as his point of view was right.
Right.
It was just an issue of how he was getting from point A to point B.
A victim of circumstance,
And you could empathize with why he was coming from where he was coming from.
Yeah, and I think the way they did that was almost genius in showing, like, you have the struggle of Black Americans in America, and then you have the Wakanda doing wonderful, and it's like this being an isolationist, and then showing the reality of things. It's almost like there was more layers to that, you know what I mean? And I thought that was really well done. And unfortunately, there was a couple of Andy Serkis is in there, and his character he was returning as the Claw from Civil War, or I'm sorry, he was in Age of Ultron with the Avengers.
Right.
His acting was, I mean, some might call it campy. I loved him in it.
Right.
I didn't see enough of him in it, but still, it was his acting for me was good and entertaining, and I think it should be noted. So, but man, just a great movie, and I'm excited for. They're talking about a sequel already, and of course,
Right.
I'm excited though because I think there's a lot more story to be told there. I mean, it's for me pieces that work about like kings and showing there's a bloodline to that. I mean, to me, I always find that interesting. You know,
Right.
it's the one thing I think they missed with when they were making the Thor movies. You know, is you know as far as Asgard, and I never felt like connected the way. It's amazing how the two were done. I mean, I thought if anything, Asgard should feel like it did in is Wakanda. You know, they had
Yeah.
that feeling. You know, and I never got it with Asgard. You know,
You know, they definitely did. They got Wakanda. They did a much better job getting Wakanda right than they did
Oh,
getting
absolutely.
Asgard right. Yeah, I'd have to agree.
So-
yeah. But anyway, I'd say that both of us would agree. Black Panther, thumbs up. Go out and see it. Definitely worth your time. And thank you for watching Slice of SciFi.